A mass shooting rocks Pennsylvania. And, well, this one's probably going to disappear because it doesn't fit the narrative, although it was all over the news when we thought we could go and get rid of the AR-15. We'll talk a bit about what's happening there. This is a very breaking story, so we're not going to have a lot of details, but I will let you know what there is to know about this and what we do from there. In other news, Fannie Willis gets to stay on the case. She has to fire her boy toy, and, well, I guess that means the personal ad is going to be out there. Wanted, one new prosecutor for Fulton County, Georgia. Must be 9 inches or more. So we'll talk about that, what that means, and a possible different perspective off of this as people are looking at this and saying that the judge must be compromised and the court must be compromised. I do have another theory about what happened here, and we'll talk about that right up at the top of the show. E. Jean Carroll gets her bond. We'll be talking about what happened there, some of the reaction to this, because apparently the company that put up the bond has Russian ties, and, well, everybody on the internet decided they were going to go over that with a fine-tooth comb. And the National Guard in New York is now patrolling the subway. But don't worry, there's no crime and everything is fine. This is fine, it's all great, it's all wonderful. Just don't worry about it and don't believe your lying eyes. Plus, in things I like and things that I hate, at the end of the show, I will be trying my hard cider. For the very first time, I will be letting something that I have created as an alcohol pass my lips. Will I die on stream? We will find out together. It is going to be all of this and more on a very, very special weekend edition of Contemporary. So grab some friends, get some snacks. Hope you have some good dinner coming on here tonight. And I hope you're ready to go back and enjoy your weekend after we get done with the news. And you may find yourself living in a shotgun shack. And you may find yourself in another part of the world. And you may find yourself behind the wheel of a large automobile. I know I have. And you may find yourself in a beautiful house with a beautiful wife. I haven't done that one yet. And you may ask yourself, how did I get here? I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Contemporary on a Saturday? What the hell are we doing here today? I've got most of you who watched the 2-week streams, and I do anticipate, by the way, before we even get started into this, I'm going to come back on my anticipation. It's St. Patrick's Day weekend, on a Saturday, on a date night, and it's 6 o'clock in the afternoon on prime time. I think the vast majority of the viewership here tonight is going to be on the replay. You guys have surprised me before. I will come right out and say you guys have surprised me before on this, but given, and I didn't realize this when we were getting to the point of getting off to this, but I mean, this was one of the hardest weeks to come back out and get a makeup stream going based on the fact that it's one of the high horror holidays out there right now, and I think a lot of the viewership for the live is single. I get a lot more joined and married for the replay, obviously. But we've got the added bonus here that at about 7:45, when we cut to things I like and things that I hate, I will be trying my hard cider for the very first time. That is right. for the first time, something that I have created with alcohol in it will be passing my lips. And I said on the Twitter announcement, and I said on announcement before we went to the Twitter, guys, I might die. There's never a 0 chance that you're gonna die on a stream. A semi could come barreling down Redacted Street and launch through that window after losing control, and you guys could see me splatter here. And I know that YouTube doesn't allow guns on a live stream because there's always the chance that somebody could say, fine, she can keep the kids right on the stream. I wouldn't do that anymore. And by the way, if you found out that I did that after all the advocacy that I did against or for self-deletion prevention, it was probably the government. I'm just going to come right back out and say this, but they already say that alcohol is a poison, which I drink it because there are things inside of me that I want to kill. But this will be the first time that I have made alcohol since... Well, I'm not going to say the last time I made it, what the last time I made it was, because there may be some implications going on with that, but this will be the first time in about 20 years that an alcohol that I have created is going to pass my lips. We will see how it goes, because it's fermented. It's not distilled. I'm kind of excited. I'm a little nervous, but I'm kind of excited as well. We'll see what happens. But that'll be for the bottom of the show. For the first part of the show, I've got my regular water with Mio and collagen supplement in it. So we'll be going with that. But we've got news to get to tonight. News that we couldn't get to any other night this week. So strap yourselves in, find some friends, and let's get a watch party going. What is going on with... Oh, my Rumble was stopped. I don't know why. It was stopped up on the title card. Well, that's a detail for IT for another day. Seawall, that is for you. But let's get into it and let's get started, because we've got some bad news to start with, unfortunately. Over here on Contemporary. Before we do, make sure you guys go out and check out KTZed and the Daily Ignoramus. Always check those channels out. They are some of my favorite people in the world, and I will advocate for them. KTZed will be streaming tomorrow. I get to say, go check out KTZed the day before she streams, because we had so much news to pick up here today. But yeah, go back and join that. It is KTZed over on YouTube for, I think it's Overruled this week, but I don't know if she's going to have a stream again because of the high holiday coming tomorrow. But yeah, go check that out. Go check out the Daily Ignoramus every morning at 10 a.m. Central Time. I'm in the chat. Well, I'm there. I'm usually lurking, but I am there almost every day. So go back and check that out. And let's get into the news. Let's get started. After the long filibuster, we got to start with some bad news today. This is breaking today, and in fact, the last updates to this are breaking within the hour of when we're going with this. So if you wonder what it is they're going to lead with coming off of this, because they can't run in the economy, and as hard as they try to say, vote for me, I'm not Trump, that is not resonating with voters this year. So they're going to try to go for the guns when November comes up here. And we've got another mass shooting, but unfortunately this one is going to disappear. Raw's alerts with the video breaking. Law enforcement responding to an active shooter as multiple people have been shot and killed. This is in Falls Township, Pennsylvania. Currently, numerous law enforcement and other emergency agencies are responding to an active shooter situation in Falls Township, Pennsylvania, as 4 people have been shot and killed and 1 injured in 3 different locations. Police are searching for a black male armed with a shotgun who is driving a carjacked gold Honda CR-V. A shelter-in-place order has been issued. People gathering for St. Patrick's Day celebrations need to leave. Which again, when we go back and think about the fact that I'm doing a news stream on the Saturday before St. Patrick's Day and wondering if I'm going to get viewership or not tonight, that's another part of it too. People are going to be out there partying it up, drinking the green beer, and making bad decisions. Police are asking residents to lock all doors and move to a central and secure location away from windows. This situation is still developing, and this was as of 10:18 a.m. this morning, Central Time, 11:18 a.m. Eastern Time. Got the video here. Let's zoom in on that and have a listen. Well, here, whole area is cordoned off, but you can still kind of hear the siren in the background there. So, he has been located, and he has been apprehended at this point. CNN reporting. Pennsylvania man suspected of killing 3 people is in custody, police say. So, a couple updates from the initial Raw's alert is that it's only 3 people that were killed, thankfully. Because one less person killed is always a good thing. I'm very pro-life over here. And the suspect is in custody and will face down what he did. Into is here, by the way. I don't know if I said hi to you earlier before we got in here, but Into is here before the scene changed. So, welcome Into. Welcome into the show, Into. Sarah Dewberry and Jeff Winter reporting. Andre Gordon, the man accused of killing 3 people in Falls Township, Saturday morning is in custody according to police. He's in custody. No one else was injured, said Trenton, New Jersey Police Director Steve Wilson. We'll get into why New Jersey was answering for this in just a moment. Authorities in Trenton, New Jersey, who were looking to apprehend Gordon, initially believed he was barricaded inside a home, prompting a perimeter of the area to be set, Wilson said. Apparently, before the perimeter was completed, the suspect was able to get out of the location unseen. However, our information was that he was still in there, Wilson said. The suspect was actually walking on New York Avenue, Wilson said. He was stopped and identified and taken into custody. Gordon was taken into custody without incident, Wilson said. Falls Township Police said officers were called just before 0900 to investigate a reported shooting in Viewpoint Lane in Levittown. Gordon, who was driving a stolen vehicle, fatally shot his 52-year-old stepmother, Karen Gordon, and his 53-year-old sister, Kara Gordon. His 13-year-old sister, Kara Gordon. His sister is not older than his stepmother, although that does happen sometimes. But usually it's very, very wealthy people that do that. Bucks County District Attorney Jennifer Shorn said at a Saturday afternoon news conference 3 other people were in the home and successfully hid from Gordon during the attack, according to Shorn. Following the shooting, Gordon went to Edgewood Lane, where he fatally shot 25-year-old Daniel, with whom he has 2 children. 4 other people were inside the home, including Daniel's mother, who was injured by Gordon and is being treated at a hospital, Shorn said. After the shootings, police say Gordon then carjacked a 44-year-old driver at gunpoint in the parking lot of a Dollar General on Bristol Pike in Morrisville. The driver was not injured, according to police. The carjacked Honda CR-V was found abandoned in Trenton around 11:38 a.m., according to Falls Township Police. Falls Township Police say they believe Gordon knew all the victims except for the driver. He is believed to be currently homeless and has ties to Trenton, New Jersey area, they added in the statement. At the Saturday news conference, police said it had a minimal contact with Gordon in the past. When the police reached a home in Trenton, the people inside were able to get out. The residents have been successfully evacuated with no injuries. At this time, the FBI resources are on standby, while the ATF, New Jersey State Patrol, Mercer County Rapid Response Team, and Mercer County Homicide Task Force are also on the scene with the Trenton Police Department. Trenton Police Detective Lieutenant Lisette Rios said. He is believed to be in possession of an assault rifle, which he used to commit these crimes, because, of course, it was an AR-15. I'm telling you right now, if people would stop, we'll go on to that in just a moment. Which he used to commit these crimes. It's believed that Gordon may be in possession of additional weapons. The Falls Township Police statement said, well, he used an assault rifle. He must be a white supremacist, right? Well, white supremacy is getting very, very inclusive these days, I would say. There's going to be a little bit of scuttlebutt about the assault rifle as of today, but by tomorrow, the story is going to be out of the news cycle. Let's pull up a map here, because I did say I would explain, especially if there are people from out of state, why they're bringing New Jersey into this when it all happened in Pennsylvania. And that's because that is all right on the line. So So that's Trenton, New Jersey, where he was actually picked up. But all this was happening over here, for the most part. So they were right on the line. Falls Township, right there. Community Park. So essentially he got in a car, jumped on US Route 1, and went back across to Jersey. It's wild that that's Route 1, and that's the same Route 1 that I used to drive on every day up just outside of Boston. Goes up through New York, up through Connecticut, I think. Because 95 goes up and around and goes through Rhode Island. But I think Route 1, doesn't that just run through Hartford? I don't know. I was always driving it up here. But in custody, and again, it's probably going to disappear in the next couple days. By Monday, you are not going to know who Andre Gordon is. But you'll hear a whole lot about the assault rifle. That's for sure. In other news. You know, did I put the Rumble announcement up on X? I don't know if I did or not. I don't think I did. That's okay. People are starting to pile into Rumble. Looks like some lurkers, but if you guys want to chat, that does help me bring me to the front page of Rumble. And if I'm on the front page of Rumble and I die on stream because I drank my own alcohol for the first time, I'd be famous. Alright, let's keep going. We gotta get to the Fanny news. It's Fanny. Fanny Willis. Get rid of a little bit of this here. So, breaking news also from yesterday. Fulton County DA Fannie Willis case against Trump can continue. NPC News reporting. Blaine Alexander, Derek Gregorian, and Charlie Guile are the authors for this particular article. I'm only going to read a little bit of this because we kind of knew this was coming. And Nathan Wade did announce that he was resigning from this case today, effective. But I have a different take than just corrupted judge and the fact that he used to work with Fannie Willis. And I'll tell you about that, but let's go over some of the facts of what's happened with this. A Georgia judge ruled Friday that a Fulton County District Attorney, Fannie Willis, should not be disqualified from prosecuting the racketeering case against former President Trump and several co-defendants with one major condition. Fulton County Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee found the appearance of impropriety that brought about by Willis's romantic relationship with the special persecutor, Nathan Wade, should result in either Willis and her office leaving the case or just Wade, whom she'd appointed to head the case. Within hours of the decision, Willis's office confirmed Wade had resigned and she had accepted his resignation. The choice was likely an easy one. If Willis were to remove herself, the case would come to a halt. More on that in a moment, but having Wade leave will ensure the case continues without further delay. In the letter, Wade said, "I'm offering my resignation in the interest of democracy," or, as I always say, code for our hegemony. In dedication to the American public and my ability to rule over them, and to move this case forward as quickly as possible to make sure nobody stands in the way of our hegemony. Trump attorney Steve Sadow said in a statement that while respecting the court's decision, we believe that the court did not afford appropriate significance to the prosecutorial misconduct of Willis and Wade. Again, we'll go over that in just a moment. We will use all legal options available as we continue to fight to end this case, which should never have been brought in the first place, he added. Willis's office did not immediately comment on the ruling. Well, no, her and Wade were out drinking and celebrating, so of course they're not going to go back and comment on the ruling. What is going on with my Rumble? I'm still live, right? Yeah, I'm still on. The judge found there was no actual conflict brought about by the relationship, a finding that would have required Willis to be disqualified. And again, we're going to talk about that. That's the point I want to talk about right there. Without sufficient evidence that the DA acquired a personal stake in the prosecution or that her financial arrangements had any impact on the case, the defendant's claims of an actual conflict must be denied, the judge wrote. This finding is by no means an indication that the court condones the tremendous lapse in judgment or the unprofessional manner of the district attorney's testimony during an evidentiary hearing. Rather, it's the undersigned's opinion that the Georgia law does not permit the finding of an actual conflict for simply making bad choices. That's the definition of a conflict of interest. Even repeatedly. Once again! And it's the trial court's duty to confine itself to the relevant issues in applicable law properly brought before it, he added. Now, why is this important? Number one, this means that we are going to continue to hear 86 indictments! Oh my God, look at all the indictments, oh my God, he's been indicted! How can you support him? He's been indicted. Indictment. And there have been a few facts pointed out about this particular judge and the district attorney in this case. Now, one thing to keep in mind. Judge McAfee and Fannie Willis have worked together before. That is a fact. That is true. But I don't think that actually had bearing on the case. I don't think that had a bearing on the decision. As much as a lot of MAGA right now is trying to push this and say that this was definitely 100% because of corruption in the court and the fact that the judge is in the tank for Fannie Willis and everything else like that and all the other things that they're saying about this, that's not the case in this. I can tell you what happened with this. It's the exact same thing that we saw happen in Colorado. What do I mean by that? What was the ruling in Colorado? Not the Supreme Court ruling for Colorado, but the initial district court ruling in Colorado. We, the court, have found that Trump can stay on the ballot, but he totally committed an insurrection. Our court found this, but we can say that he can stay on the ballot, and don't worry about why. We just said that, but it was totally an insurrection. And I said at the time, the exact same thing with that. That was a bullshit ruling based on fear. Now, judges should not be subjected to make rulings on fear. And the Colorado Supreme Court was all too eager to come back up and take the fall for this because they've got better security and they've got better state patrol and everything else with this. And, of course, the Orange Man is bad. But one of the reasons, and I cited this at the time, that I believe that the Colorado judge made that decision was because we see a large propensity for riots from our friends on the left when judges do things that they don't like. I mean, there was a guy arrested with a gun walking around Kavanaugh's house with a plan to murder Brett Kavanaugh and then get caught and be put up as a martyr for the cause of abortion. When you find against what the popular opinion is on the left, they don't like it very much, and they will let you know that they don't like it very much. They're not shy about telling you that at all. And I said the judge in Colorado probably looked at the case and said, shit, we can't do anything about this. He hasn't been indicted for insurrection. He hasn't been convicted of insurrection. We don't have any reason to keep him off the ballot. But if I say that, they're going to firebomb my house. They might come in and kill my family. At the very least, they'll vandalize everything that I own and go put pressure on everybody that I'm related to. What do I do? Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I will say that it was totally an insurrection, but our hands are tied and we can't make this decision. Then they'll get to come back and say in the news that he's an insurrectionist. That'll placate them for a little while. It'll get this case off my docket, and my hands will be clean. That's what I think happened here, too. The judge in this case, and again, it's a terrible situation when we're sitting in a position where a judge has to be in fear of his life if he rules in an objective manner. In any private practice, both of these people would have been fired and disbarred. Both Willis and Wade would have been fired, possibly disbarred. They would have at least been up for being disbarred. But given the fact that to take Fani Willis off this case and have McAfee, who was a Republican appointee, go and choose the next prosecutor who's going to be on this case, the case would, number one, likely be dismissed. And if it was dismissed, you might not recognize poor Scott McAfee's house at the end of it. That is a terrifying reality that we're living in, the fact that this can even happen. But I don't think it was corruption. I'm sure somebody in the ATF or the FBI went on and got on Reddit, where you can actually go back on Reddit and plot these things, and found out that, yeah, they were probably plotting to firebomb protests in front of the courthouse or the judge's house. They have his name. I'm sure they have his address. I bet you he was terrified. It's terrorism what they're doing, but that's how I see this. Because, again, this is a clear conflict of interest. He says that in the ruling. Where did I have that? I find it by no means an indication the court condones this tremendous lapse in judgment. That's because it's disbarable. Or the unprofessional manner of the DA's testimony during the evidentiary hearing. Rather, it's the undersigned's opinion that Georgia law does not permit the finding of actual conflict for simply making bad choices. Again, that is the definition of a conflict of interest. But this will continue, and we'll get to hear 86 indictments from now until the middle of November. I hope you enjoy that, because it's coming. Alright. Well, what's nice about this is that we did not go through and, hey look, that's my globe. What do we only have, 28 minutes talking about the new news stories? Now we're actually into the stuff that we've been putting off for 2 streams. Starting with Newsweek today. Donald Trump's $92 million E. Jean Carroll bond raises questions. From James Bickerton. Donald John Trump on Friday posted a $91.6 million bond as he appealed the verdict reached by a jury in January, which ordered the former president to pay writer E. Jean Carroll $83.3 million in compensation after he repeatedly defamed her. We can rant on that too. I'm good at that. In 2023, a separate court concluded that Trump had sexually abused Carroll during the 90s, then defamed her when she spoke out. The court instructed him to pay $5 million in damage. The $91.6 million bond consisted of the $83.3 million judgment, along with 9% statutory interest added by the state of New York for punitive purposes. It was guaranteed by the federal insurance company, a subsidiary of Swiss headquartered insurance company Chubb Group. This has sparked speculation on social media about why the federal insurance company decided to guarantee Trump's bond and who within the company made the decision. Chubb president and CEO Evan Greenberg has a history with Trump, having served on his advisory committee for the trade policy and negotiations from 2018 to 2022. The Washington Post, where democracy goes to die in darkness, reported it's not clear from the court records what collateral Trump presented to obtain the bond from Chubb. What does it matter? You got your cash, right? In a statement sent to Newsweek, Chubb Group said, "As a matter of policy, we do not comment on client-specific information," which is the right position to have. Our surety division provides appeal bonds on the normal course of business. These bonds are, in ordinary, an important part of the American justice system, protecting the rights of both defendants and plaintiffs. For defendants, appeal bonds ensure the opportunity to exercise the right to appeal an adverse judgment, which might have otherwise be lost in the absence of a bond. For plaintiffs, appeal bonds ensure that they will receive the damages when an award is confirmed on appeal, eliminating the need to chase a defendant down for payment. This guarantee provides a peace of mind as the plaintiff awaits finality in the appeals process. The surety receives full collateral from the defendant in exchange for issuing the bond. Newsweek contacted representatives of Trump's 2024 campaign by email at 6:45 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday. This article will be updated if they want to comment. Why would his campaign, by the way? Unless you're coming out and admitting that this is complete and total election interference. But this is a personal matter. Why would his campaign have anything? Well, again, we know why his campaign has something to do with it, but I want to hear from somebody on the left why they're contacting his campaign for this. Because the campaign didn't make the post. Now, they're running up here as well and telling everybody in the world that the Chubb Group has Russian ties. They're Russians. He's now beholden to the Russians. Oh my God, he's compromised. And I've got several articles off of this one, including an X, Seth Abramson. Update, case closed. New update just made to my pinned report. The final connection has been made, which means that he's been walking around with a whiteboard like Pepe fucking Sylvia with a cigarette in his mouth saying, he's connected to this guy, who's connected to somebody in Russia. And this guy once stayed in a Trump hotel one night. And the person who's managing that Trump hotel owns a house in the Kremlin. These people call you a conspiracy theorist, by the way. Trump is now officially being bankrolled by Kremlin-aligned interests. He is fully compromised and cannot receive national security briefings or be president of the United States. It's the Russians! If I wasn't waiting to the end of the stream, I'd drink for that. Because, hey, I don't have to get up and work in the morning, so drink. I do have a bottle of Strongbow just because I want to do some comparison. I could do that, but no, we'll wait till the end of the stream. The hard cider will come at the end of the stream. And they'll ask the question, who is Evan Greenberg, businessman connected to Trump's bond? Also from Newsweek, from Alexander Fabino, a former member of the Advisory Committee for Trade Policy and Negotiations under the Trump admin. Evan G. Greenberg heads Chubb... I'm going to talk like Biden this early in the stream. Heads Chubb... Jesus. Heads Chubb Ltd., an insurance company that guaranteed the former president's $91.6 million bond in his defamation case brought by E. Jean Carroll. By the way, what do you want to bet that they also put up the bond for Letitia James's case? And then we start to hear another thing screaming of, it's the Russians! Greenberg, a veteran of the insurance industry with a notable tenure in global economic and environmental boards, oversees a company providing commercial property, casualty, personal, accident, and other forms of insurance, even extending to providing financial instruments within the legal system to former presidents. Chubb, through its Indiana-based subsidiary Federal Insurance Company, offered Trump the bond as a procedural aspect of legal appeals, the company told Newsweek, emphasizing its role in facilitating the judiciary process. Our surety division provides appeal bonds on the normal course of business. We read that in the last article. The chairman of the National Committee on the United States-China Relations and director of the USA-China Business Council, Greenberg is a known figure in the international business community with deep-rooted family legacy in the insurance industry. Son of Maurice Greenberg, the former chairman and CEO of American International Group, or AIG for short, and the younger brother of former Marsh & McLennan CEO Jeffrey Greenberg, Evan has continued the family presence on the global insurance sector. While Greenberg himself may not be directly involved with the bond, Chubb's role in securing Trump's bond coincides with a period of remarkable financial success for the company. Last month, and under Greenberg's leadership, Chubb reported the best earnings following a year of record growth and profitability. Realistically, they're probably friends, and Trump probably promised him a building. If for whatever reason, he has to come back up and foot the bill for this bond. At a rally in Georgia, just one day after attorney Alina Habba notified the New York judge that a bond had been secured, Trump condemned the ruling, saying, "Sometimes it's not good to be rich. I just posted a $91 million bond on a big story." And after he said that, all of our paid shills came back and said, "She should sue him again! That's defamation!" Totally made up story. Think of it, $91 million. I could say things about what it would cost normally. $91 million, based on false accusations, made about me by a woman that I knew nothing about. And that's the bitch of it, isn't it? Number one, anybody can come back up and say anything. When you're famous, and you're famous for being somebody that a lot of people hate, they'll just come back and accept it as gospel without anything to really back it. It's the partisan nature of politics, and it fucking sucks. And I've griped about this before. Where are the damages? Before this happened, did you know who Elizabeth Jean Carroll was? I didn't. I still don't entirely know who she is, why she's famous, or why anybody gives a goddamn about what it is that she has to say. I mean, Stormy Daniels had a better standing for somebody to give a flying fuck. But apparently she was some sort of sex-positive writer and a columnist for magazines somewhere. But I mean, the problem that I'm getting is, where are the damages? I mean, the most that I could see off the damages was, well, I have emotional damage and I had to go to a therapist because I said that Trump raped me and he says he didn't rape me. But even the highest paid therapist in New York City isn't going to command a $93 million settlement. Well, he might now that he knows that she has the money, but where are the damages? When you cite damages, it's lost sales, loss of livelihood, or ability to make a livelihood. Carroll got more popular off of this. I would argue that because she was able to go back into court like this, she actually financially benefited from it. And she should be paying him for that. It's never going to happen in a New York court, but realistically, when you look at the financial balance here, the finances are going one way and not the other. I really need to see what these damages are that she's saying made her unable, because, I mean, after she came back and said, "The orange man raped me," just like this episode of SVU that I saw one time. The people who hate Trump because they were told to in a religious fashion were lined up around the block to buy every book. They probably didn't even read the book. They just lined up around the block. This poor woman, $24.99? Sure. Let me buy 10 copies. This poor, poor woman. And every magazine was out here begging for a story to be on the front page. So I fail to see a damage. I do. And I'll be completely realistic about that. Okay, a former Elle magazine columnist. And I will, as always, keep the same standard that I always keep. I can't condemn Trump to death over the documents because I've never seen the documents. I can't condemn Biden to death over the documents because I've never seen the documents. I can't condemn John Kerry to death for leaking national secrets to Iran. That was another one that came up that I didn't get on the stack, but I'll probably talk about on Tuesday. Because I've never heard the conversation where he supposedly leaked national security risk. I cannot condemn Trump for raping E. Jean Carroll because only 2 people know what happened in that Bergdorf dressing room that day. In the world, in the universe, only 2 people will ever know what actually happened in that dressing room. I can't condemn Brett Kavanaugh because only 2 people in the world know what happened in the room that day. I can't condemn Joe Biden over Tara Reade because only 2 people know what happened in that Senate hall. The rest of the world can speculate over all the things that I just mentioned, and we can come to our own conclusions about them, but they will be mostly partisan based. Holy shit, I'm getting ranty. Am I drunk already? Or did I just really get a good night's sleep? From ABC News, Carol's attorney asked judge to approve Trump's bond in her defamation case. From Aaron Katersky and Peter Charalambous. Lawyers for former Elle magazine columnist E. Jean Carroll have requested that the judge in her defamation case approve the $91,630,000 bond secured by the former president, subject to a small change in one of the terms. The change reduces the amount of time between the resolution of Trump's appeal and Carroll's payment. Depending on the court's preference, Your Honor can so order this letter, or the parties can submit a stipulation or other appropriate documentation to effectuate this change, Carroll's attorney wrote in a letter sent Monday to the judge. The agreement on the bond negated the need for a proposed hearing on the matter Monday afternoon. Monday's request came as Carroll's attorneys said they were monitoring Trump's statements for possible defamatory comments of the same kind that initially landed him in court. The statute of limitations for defamation in most jurisdictions is between 1 and 3 years. Carroll's lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, said in a statement Monday, "As we said after the last jury verdict, we continue to monitor every statement that Trump makes about our client E. Jean Carroll." So, they're going to sue again, by the way. They are. I already know that they are. You know that they are. I know that they are. Bacteria with a powerful enough telescope on Mars know that they are. In classic Trump fashion, from The Hill, take down a couple more of these here. From The Hill, Trump dubs Carroll Miss Bergdorf Goodman in a dig at defamation verdict. Sarah Portinsky reporting. Former President Trump labeled E. Jean Carroll Miss Bergdorf Goodman in a Monday interview as he expressed frustration with having to post the full bond in the defamation suit against him, even as Trump appeals the recent verdict. Trump had tried to delay posting his bond or reduce the amount of it, but he ultimately posted the full amount Friday after the judge rejected his latest attempt to delay Monday's deadlines. "If I didn't win on appeal on these ridiculous decisions, if I didn't win on appeal, this is the most ridiculous decisions in putting the Miss Bergdorf Goodman, a person I never ever met, I have no idea who she is," Trump said in an interview on Squawk Box on Monday, referring to Carroll without mentioning her name. "Except one thing, I got sued. From that point on, I said, wow, that's crazy. What is this? I got charged. I was given a false accusation, and I had to post a bond on a false accusation." Trump continued. That's a good one. I like that one. I know that the lawyers aren't going to like that one, but I like that one. I think that one's funny. Nancy Mace got into the news over this one, which I thought was ridiculous. And then Carroll again came in on this one. From ABC News, Nancy Mace defends her support of Trump after he was found liable of sexual assault. From Tal Axelrod, Nancy Mace on Sunday defended her support of Trump after a civil jury's verdict that the former president sexually abused writer E. Jean Carroll in the 90s. ABC is, by the way, and so is Newsweek, very careful to not say the R word for this, because they can get sued for defamation. Your rando on Twitter and your page shills, because they can't prove that the script came from the Biden admin to say the R word, can't get sued over this, but ABC News can, and will. No matter what the judge's ruling said. In an interview on ABC News' This Week, Mace, a South Carolina Republican, was repeatedly pressed by anchor George Snuffleupagus about her backing Trump in the 2024 presidential race in light of her previously sharing her own story about being raped as a teenager, saying that women often won't come forward for fear of being dismissed. Donald Trump has been found liable for rape by a jury. False. Donald Trump has been found liable for defaming the victim of that rape by a jury. False. It's been affirmed by a judge, Snuffleupagus said, while asking the Congresswoman how she squared these facts with her endorsement. Mace argued that the civil findings against Trump and Carroll's case should not be taken the same way as a criminal conviction, as Trump is appealing, which, if it was a criminal conviction, he could do that too, but he'd be doing it with an ankle monitor on. It was a criminal conviction. She also said she felt the question was inappropriate. It was not a criminal court case, number one. Number two, I live with shame, and you're asking me to question my political choices to try to shame me as a rape victim? Mace told Snuffleupagus. She's got a point, too. She rebuked his line of questioning as he pushed back over the course of the interview. It's actually not about shaming you, it's a question about Donald Trump, he said at one point. No, it is about shaming her. You say you've been raped. For shame that you would support this person who was not found liable for rape. For shame, good woman. That is what he was doing. I've dealt with this for 30 years, Mace told Snuffleupagus. You know how hard it was to tell my story 5 years ago when they were doing a fetal heartbeat bill in South Carolina to restrict abortion, and there were no exceptions for rape or incest in there. I had to tell my story because no other woman was coming forward for us. No rape victims were present or represented. And you're trying to shame me this morning, and I find it offensive, and that's why women won't come forward. I'm not shaming you at all. I called you courageous, Snuffleupagus told Mace, going on to say, I'm asking you a very simple question. Much of the interview focused on this contentious back and forth over the Carroll verdict and whether it affected Mace's support of Trump. A representative for the Donald subsequently reached out to ABC News about the This Week description of the jury's verdict in the Carroll civil action as having found him liable for rape since they found him responsible for sexual assault, not rape, in 2023. Which, and again, when you come up here, anytime they say the R word, it's in quotation marks. And when it's up here and it's actual what ABC News is saying, it's of sexual assault. They did that on purpose. And yes, the Trump legal team has the right to come back and reach out to do that. Possibly file a suit in South Carolina for this, and I bet you it wouldn't go well for ABC if they did. It might, because they're a Disney-owned company. Elizabeth Jean Carroll responds from Newsweek. It's the last one on Carroll, I promise. I know I did my big rant at the top of the show, but this is the last one on Carroll, I promise. Carroll reacts to Snuffleupagus' interview with Nancy Mace. From Rachel Dobkin. Journalist, which that should be in quotation marks, Elizabeth Jean Carroll reacted to George Snuffleupagus' contentious interview on Sunday with Representative Nancy Mace, a South Carolina Republican, when the two discussed Carroll's civil defamation trial against the former president. Mace, who is a rape survivor, became outraged on Sunday when Snuffleupagus asked her on ABC News' This Week about her endorsement of the former president. Trump, the likely GOP nominee in the 2024 race, was ordered in January to pay $83.3 million. We know that. You've endorsed Trump for president. Trump has been found liable. We went through all that in the ABC article. The Congresswoman added, this wasn't in the other article, and quite frankly, E. Jean Carroll's comments when she did get the judgment, joking about what she was going to buy with it, it makes it harder for women to come forward. And then they make a mockery out of rape when they joke about it. Yeah, because remember, she asked Rachel Maddow what it is that she wanted Carol to buy for Rachel Maddow. Oh, do you want a house? I've got $93 million. Snuffleupagus then asked, doesn't it make it harder for women to come forward when they are defamed by presidential candidates? Responding to the heated exchange, Carol wrote on X on Sunday, thank you, George Snuffleupagus, for valiantly defending me. I wish Representative Mace well, and I salute all survivors for their strength, endurance, and holding their sanity. That statement right there was laced, completely laced with, oh, you fucking miserable cunt. I wish her well. I salute all survivors. You dumb bitch. That's what that was laced with. You can read that in the subtext. So, that's probably not going anywhere for a while. We still have Mace news, but thankfully, no more Carol. How much Botox do you think is right there? All right. Nancy Mace also says voters have moved on from January the 6th. From Ivana Sarik. I'm going to push back on that. We'll read this a bit, but I'm going to push back on that a little bit. Trust me. You'll like where this is going. Nancy Mace defended her decision to support the former president's 2024 campaign, despite the events of the Capitol Selfie Fest during an appearance on This Week Sunday. It's a reversal for Mace, who criticized Trump in the wake of the Selfie Fest, calling for him to be held accountable for January the 6th and never hold office again. See, this is how you deal with your constituency. There'll be an Amash rant in this here. Fair warning. I have listened to my voters in South Carolina, and they moved beyond January the 6th, May said, when she asked how she squared her current support for the former president with her previous stance. Voters have moved on from the Capitol Selfie Fest and are more concerned with the effects of the Biden admin's policies, she argued. When I do my "this is what I need to see to vote for Trump" video coming up, I think I'm going to record that tomorrow. I know I've been saying it for 2 weeks, but I think I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to bring that up, by the way, because I do think that the Donald is going to win even without my vote. But I think a lot of it's going to be a protest vote, and the GOP is fucked if they don't come up with a way to instill populism in the American people. Because I think a lot of the vote is going to come as an anti-Biden vote. Just like a lot of what we saw in 2020 that was real was an anti-Trump vote. Honk honk. Asked about her previous claim that Trump should be held accountable for January the 6th, Mace replied the voters held him accountable through our Republican primaries this year. He's won overwhelmingly. Alright. A little bit of a stitch here. Number one, yes, the voters have moved on. And I do need to see the Donald move on from January the 6th. Because I don't believe that he has. That is my big thing that's holding me back. I can look past the spending if I actually get a full plan as to how to curb the spending next time. I can look past that. I need to see a plan for what we're planning to do for 2024 and 2025 and beyond. Instead of just, it's my turn because I won and I was robbed from me from January the 6th. I need to see a move on from the 2020 election. But it's the same rant that I had for Kyle Rittenhouse on X this morning. January the 6th would be dead. And honestly, most of the prisoners would probably be released, if not for the fact that the Democrats continue to bring it up. From here until November, every day is going to be January the 6th, all over again. The voters have moved on, and they did. Like she said, they overwhelmingly poured in support for the Donald. They have moved on. As far as what she goes with her squaring her own personal convictions against this, I actually applaud Nancy Mace for the way that she handled this and what she did. And that is based on the fact that what we saw with the impeachment hearing. Impeachment 1, when Amash went back and threw a temper tantrum and turned independent, and then dropped out of the Congress after nobody would support him when he was an independent. It's because of the way that he handled it. When you are a representative of a district, your job is to bring the will of your voters to Congress. You are representing them. You do have a certain level of personal judgment, and that's why your constituency put you there, is because they trust your personal judgment will reflect their ideas. But if you outright defy their ideas and their whims, you can't get mad when they're mad at you because you were represented to bring their ideas to Washington, D.C., and you didn't. You injected your own into it instead. Which is, again, it's all well and good. You are supposed to have a certain level of autonomy as a representative. It's not like every decision doesn't need to come up to a vote out of your district. But then to come back out and throw a tantrum about it, which Nancy Mace had the opportunity to do if she felt so strongly about January the 6th, but her constituency would have absolutely roasted her for it. Rightly. Because she wasn't representing the whims of her district. I like Amash as a person, and I like Amash as a libertarian. But I understand that if his views don't agree with his GOP base, he's going to tell them to go pound sand and then cry when they punish him for it. Nancy Mace did the right thing with this, even again, if she had to hold every little bitty fiber of her being to do so. And say it through grated teeth. No, I think it was just fine what happened on January the 6th, even though I said he should be held accountable earlier. She represented the whims of her people. That was the right decision to make. Alright, we did get... Oh, I read that one already. I didn't take that one off the stack from the other day. Alright, we did get the government open for the foreseeable future. Boo. And now we move on to crime and punishment. CNN reporting. National Guard troops patrolling New York City subways. But don't worry, everything is fine. This is a video clip from CNN. Let's listen.
Joining me now is Mitchell Moss. He is the Henry Hart Rice Professor of Urban Policy and Planning at New York University's Wagner Graduate School of Public Service. And I thank you for joining us. I do not know if you've been on the subway in the last few hours, but let me ask you, is this about safety or is it about politics? Because it is an extraordinary move.
Politics is always going to find a way to insert itself into the safety issues of New York because we have 8.5 million people, and the subways are not an airplane. The subways are viewed as something that are sacred space. In fact, they've been quite safe for the past 30, 40 years. It's only recently since the pandemic that we've seen a rise in crime on the subways, and since the beginning of 2024, we had 3 homicides. The politics is very simple. The governor of New York, no matter who it is, Democrat or Republican, sits in Albany, a tiny town, makes 100,000 people on 1 or 2 days a year. They loved coming to New York and meddling in things here, getting attention. And Governor Hochul saw the people concerned about crime, and she took the weapons she has, which are not very many, which are the state troopers and the National Guard. Now, let's be very serious. The National Guard is a military force. They can't arrest anyone. They are there for disasters. They are there for terrorism. And during the post-9/11 environment, they were involved in helping make the subways safe by checking people not carrying dangerous objects. However, New York Police Department is quite adept at fighting crime. It brought crime down during the Bloomberg years and Giuliani years, and of course it rose during the de Blasio years because of the pandemic. And what we have now is a surge of basically violent antisocial behavior, as well as having a much more lenient criminal justice system.
You're getting to really the heart of this, because what we want to know is how New Yorkers are reacting to this. And do you think that they feel really some of the futility of this? Like, why couldn't the transit cops continue to do this job?
Well, Mayor Adams asked the governor if she would provide more money to pay for police overtime. And instead of giving the mayor money, she sent down the National Guard. I think most New Yorkers realize that it is not something the National Guard know how to do. They may be good in making the apple orchard safe, but they're not going to make the subway riders safer. Some people like looking at them, especially the commuters at Grand Central, but basically they're there for cosmetics, for theatrical purposes, to make people feel good. We need cops, not National Guard people, on the subway platform.
Well, we need to change policy so that people don't need to go back and rob people constantly on the subway. That's where we need to start. Make it so that we don't have to do things like this. So the gentleman here is probably about half right, I would say. It is an optics play to do so. And right, he's absolutely right. The National Guard cannot arrest people. They could be deputized, and then they could, but they can't arrest people. But now you're wandering around New York. Adams can't get additional funding out of Albany for overtime, so he can't go and pay more transit authority and more people to sit on the subway because they, for whatever reason, become this dangerous place. So he'll come back in and he'll put the people that are in there with the ability to make the arrest, but he'll have his Gestapo or Hochul's Gestapo behind these people. It's interesting, by the way, and this is the biggest part for this. I believe they're allowed to carry a service pistol while they're doing this, but they're not allowed to carry long guns. So they need to be there to be intimidating. It's theatrical, but not too intimidating. I think this is a step towards tyranny, honestly. Of course it's going to come from Kathy Hochul. When the narrative now comes out and says, oh, hey, by the way, you keep fucking up, we can send the military in. Do you want the military coming down and kicking down your door at 2 a.m.? Because we have the power to do that. Forbes, with some photo ops of what's going on here. Joint Task Force Empire Shield, because of course they have a mission name for it. Why wouldn't they? The State Patrol has long guns. So, I was the understanding, and apparently I'm mistaken off of this, that they weren't allowed to have long guns at all. Apparently they're allowed to have them as long as they're not on the train. Because clearly, we see long guns right there. And even the State Patrolman also carrying a long gun, a long rifle. Quest, I love you. How do you live like this? I couldn't do it. I couldn't even visit, man. You're getting checkpointed every time you step on your morning commute. Man. And this used to be one of the culture centers of our nation. I mean, when Sinatra said that if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. At the time, it wasn't that you had to worry about getting shanked on a train by a drug addict or caught in the crossfire. when the literal military comes back to try to take care of the person who went up to shank you. This is insanity, man. This is a step too far. Although, apparently Adams is all too eager, and so is the chief of police. But apparently I've got to renew this one because they suddenly won't let me click out of the continue without supporting. We'll take the help. New York Police Department Chief of Patrol on National Guard in the subways. Let's listen to just a little bit of this one. We're not going to go nearly as far into this one as we went in the last one.
New York City commuters are now seeing uniformed soldiers on subway platforms. Governor Kathy Hochul's decision to deploy 750 National Guard troops to patrol the subway follows a recent string of violent attacks in the nation's largest public transit system. Here is some of what Governor Hochul told us yesterday on Morning Joe about her decision.
I can show you all the statistics in the world that say you should feel safe because the numbers are better. But you're the mom on the subway with your baby in a stroller. You're the parent putting your kid on the subway to go to high school. You're that senior citizen going to a doctor appointment. If you're anxious that I'm the governor of the state of New York, I'm concerned about it. And if you feel better walking past someone in a uniform to make sure that someone doesn't bring a knife or a gun on the subway, then that's exactly why I did it.
Governor Hochul yesterday on Morning Joe, and joining us now, the NYPD's Chief of Patrol, John Schell. Chief Schell, thanks for being with us again this morning. We appreciate it. So before even these National Guardsmen were put into the subways, along, by the way, with 250 state troopers, crime was down because of your surge of NYPD officers down into the subway over the last month or so. But what does this additional 1,000 soldiers and officers mean to the safety of the subway?
Well, listen, we greatly appreciate the help from the governor. She's been a great partner with the mayor in crime reduction in the subway. But I just want to put it into perspective. We don't want a couple high-profile events taking over the narrative of what's going on in transit. So I'll just take you a walk back. In January, crime is up 48%. That's a big number, 48%. And the reason that was is we lost resources from last January. But like you just said, in the last 5 weeks, with the people, the cops we put back into the system, in the last 5 weeks, crime is down 12%. That's 6 crimes a day we're trying to battle. So that's the numbers, but people need to feel safe. So we'll take the help with a layered approach where people see the National Guard, see our cops, see the bag checks, but it's a layer, not a magic bullet, but it shows the layers. And crime is coming down in transit, and we think in a couple of weeks we'll be in a good place.
Now, Chief, yesterday when we had the governor on, we talked about this.
That's going to be a hard no from me, man. That is going to be a hard no from me. In order for me to get to work, somebody from the government has to look through everything that I own to make sure I have no reasonable means to defend myself. Oh, thanks. I'll just get in the pickup and go wherever I want to. Midget B says 2 weeks. I think the worst take on this one came from Bill Maher and Robert fucking De Niro. I can't even begin to try to introduce this. Let's just listen to this moron.
But I do see that the governor of New York now is putting the National Guard in the subway. As a New Yorker, what do you think of that? What do you think they'd say if he did it?
Well, if he did it, it's for another reason. Her doing it, I haven't heard about it. They just told me just before, but I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I'm not happy about it. But
crime in New York, you know something about that.
Well, I
You've
don't.
played it. It's happened to you.
I don't have.
Got rid of the
that's
filth.
Organized crime. I'm sorry to hear that, and I hope, I don't know, whatever I can do to help alleviate that situation, whatever, I don't know, I can't.
Well, I think people feel like there's a lack of common sense on the left and the right. Would you at least agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Right. And that gives him a giant opening. But I do see that the governor of New York.
The liberal brain encapsulated one simple exchanger. That's the exact way to look at this. If Trump were to do it, it would be horrible. And he'd be trying to force it all down. But if Hochul does it, it's magical and wonderful. Because a Democrat did it, and they're just trying to keep you safe. Same action, too. Alright. We're going to do some foreign news. I am not doing much on the Haiti thing. Reason being is we're on YouTube. There's a lot of stuff that can get said about the situation in Haiti that will get this channel taken down in a second. I might, at some point, if I want to talk about what's going on in Haiti, do a Rumble exclusive. I cannot say much about Haiti except for the basic bare bones facts while I'm sitting on a YouTube stream. But from Fox News, U.S. military airlifts non-essential staff from embassy in Haiti bolsters security amid ongoing gang violence. That's not gang violence anymore. The government has collapsed at this point in Haiti. From Bradford Betts, the U.S. military has sent forces to Haiti to airlift non-essential staff from the U.S. Embassy and help bolster security amid gang violence plaguing the Caribbean nation. U.S. Southern Command told Fox News Digital that U.S. military forces conducted an operation at the request of the State Department to bolster the security of the U.S. Embassy at Port-au-Prince. Southern Command said non-essential personnel were airlifted, and no Haitians were on board the aircraft. Non-essential personnel can include the families of diplomats, but the embassy had already ordered departure for non-essential staff and all family members in July. The neighborhood around the embassy in the capital, Port-au-Prince, is largely controlled by gangs. Wow, that sounds familiar. Kind of sounds like DC. Our embassy remains focused on advancing U.S. government efforts to support the Haitian people, including mobilizing support for the Haitian National Police, expediting the deployment of UN-authorized multinational security support, and accelerating a peaceful transition of power via free and fair elections that we totally didn't control. Southcom said. Isn't it funny when the U.S. comes out and we're in a nation like this and the first thing that they want to do is hold a free and fair election that they controlled? Dual Helix is here. Dual Helix is here probably about 15 minutes, 20 minutes early for the hard cider. Yes, we're trying the hard cider on camera tonight. The latest development in Haiti's already deteriorating situation comes after the country's embattled Prime Minister, Ariel Henry, traveled to Kenya to push for the UN-backed deployment of police force from the East African country to fight the gangs. But a Kenyan court ruled in January that such a deployment would be unconstitutional. It's a fair point. Henry, who is facing calls to resign or form a transitional council, remains unable to return home. He arrived in Puerto Rico on Tuesday after he was unable to land in the Dominican Republic, which borders Haiti. Dominican President Luis Abinader said Saturday that Henry was not welcome in his country for safety reasons and his presence would not be considered appropriate. Henry, a neurosurgeon, was appointed as Haiti's prime minister after the July 2021 assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. Henry agreed last month to hold a general election by mid-2025, and the international community has tried to find some foreign armed forces willing to fight gang violence there. Good luck. I mean, the US will do it. You just have to tell them that there's oil under Haiti. And then there will be so many military members on that island that there won't be room for the citizenry anymore. Guards from the National Palace accompanied an armored truck tried to set up a security perimeter around one of the 3 downtown stations after police fought off the attack gangs late Friday. So, just a little bit of, again, basic facts, and I am not going to go very deep into this on a YouTube stream, but the government of Haiti is not officially fallen yet, but it's in the process of falling right now after several years of unrest, which at one point did culminate in the assassination of their president. There are reports of things happening of the gang members that involve barbecue that, again, are probably considered racially insensitive to the good folks over at Google, who are going to be reviewing every moment of this as soon as they heard me say the word Haiti. But my big question off of this, and this is the big one that's been bothering me. We went through this in a voice chat over on the Discord one night. You realize how many embassies have had to be evacuated under the Biden admin? And how many had to be evacuated under the Donald? We determined, because my friends in the Discord tried to tell me that there were none evacuated under the Donald. No. There was one. It was in Hong Kong. It was evacuated under Trump when the Chinese nationals took back over Hong Kong. That's the only embassy that had to be evacuated. What have we had under Biden? Ukraine, Niger, Gabon, Ghana, Burma, or Myanmar, depending on which you talk it, or which way you say it, Pakistan, Colombia, Venezuela, and now Haiti. In 3.5 years, folks. U.S., Germany, and EU embassies begin evacuating staff as violence spirals in gang-plagued Haiti. From Caitlin Stephen Hu, Colin McCullough, and Helen Reagan. The U.S. and other diplomatic missions have begun evacuating personnel from Haiti as gang violence in the Caribbean nation's capital continues to spiral. One evacuation operation carrying staffers from the German and European missions was forced to turn down requests to help evacuate others on Sunday. A source involved told CNN, unnamed of course. Mogwai, where are you? Where's your cat? As some of the diplomatic community in Port-au-Prince worry about where gang attacks could turn next. The U.S. military said on Sunday it conducted an operation to airlift non-essential personnel from the U.S. Embassy and to bolster the security of its mission in the capital. Port-au-Prince has seen a wave of highly coordinated gang attacks on law enforcement and the state institutions that threaten to topple the government, and which has forced tens of thousands of people to flee from their homes. The tech government is gone. It is officially still in place, but, I mean, it is by a technicality only at this point. A tale of two spins, as my friend Midget B would say. Starting with the Associated Press, U.S. pledges an additional $100 million for a multinational force awaiting deployment to violence-hit Haiti. Oh look, they told them there was oil under it. Briefly from this one, because the number went up. Danica Koto says U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Monday announced an additional $100 million to finance the deployment of a multinational force to Haiti following a meeting with the Caribbean leaders in Jamaica to halt the country's violent crisis. Blinken also announced another $33 million in humanitarian aid in the creation of a joint proposal agreed on by Caribbean leaders and of all the Haitian stakeholders to expedite a political transition and create a presidential college. He said the college would take concrete steps he did not identify to meet the needs of the Haitian people and enable the pending deployment of the multinational force to be led by Kenya. Blinken also noted the U.S. Department of Defense doubled its support for the mission, having previously set aside $100 million. Well, it's now up to $300 million. From CNN, U.S. will contribute $300 million to Haiti's multinational security mission. From Jennifer Hansler and Tara John, the U.S. will contribute $300 million to Kenyan-led multinational security mission to Haiti. Blinken said on Monday as the situation on the ground continues to deteriorate. I'm announcing today that the U.S. Department of Defense is doubling its approved support of the mission from $100 million to $200 million. That brings the total U.S. support to $300 million. For this effort, Blinken said at the conclusion of a meeting in the Caribbean states, CARICOM, in the Jamaican capital of Kingston. It remains unclear when the security mission will be deployed. Kenya's Interior Minister, Kithure Kindiki, said earlier this month that Kenyan troops are currently in the pre-deployment stage. Does anybody have any popcorn? Because this is going to get messy. And also mildly entertaining, I think. Alright, that's our Haiti news, or at least the most that I can say on YouTube. Alright, 4 more. Then we'll do things I like and things that I hate, but we'll do things I like and things that I hate with a hard cider in my hand. From the Associated Press, Sweden officially joins NATO, ending decades of post-World War II neutrality. From Matthew Lee and Lauren Cook, Sweden on Thursday formally joined NATO as the 32nd member of the Transatlantic Military Alliance, ending decades of post-World War II neutrality, and centuries of broader non-alignment with major powers as security concerns in Europe have spiked following Russia's 2022 invasion of the Ukraine. President Brandon congratulated Sweden on its admission and said it was a sign that Russian President Putin's intervention in Ukraine had united rather than divided the alliance. When Putin launched the thing against the people of Ukraine, he thought he could weaken Europe and divide NATO, man. Because, Orange Man bad. And that's all he wanted to do was come back and say that, because the prevailing narrative is that Donald Trump wanted to end NATO. He wanted to. And he wants to give up Europe on a silver platter to Putin. But yeah, Sweden is in NATO. And again, it's interesting because, like they said, a record of neutrality out of Sweden. Finland is still on the table, but it looks like that one's moving forward in a hurry, and the Ukraine cannot be admitted because it's in the middle of a current conflict. In Israel, Netanyahu vows to defy Biden's red line on Rafah, because of course he did. Paul Ronsheimer and Carlo Martuscelli. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he intends to press ahead with the invasion of the city of Rafah on the southern border of the Gaza Strip in defiance of Biden, who was warned such an offensive would be a red line. Amid signs of increasing frustration with Netanyahu, the president told MSDNC on Saturday he opposed the escalation of a conflict into Rafah and that he could not accept 30,000 more Palestinians dead. Relief organizations have warned that an attack on Rafah on the border with Egypt, now a refuge for about half of Gaza's 2.3 million person population, will result in widespread civilian casualties, Germany's Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock. So it would be a humanitarian catastrophe. It would, by the way. I am no fan of the Gaza Strip and the people that are in charge of it, but I hate to tell you this. Israel is losing the optics war on this. They had these stand and the right to come back and defend themselves and launch a retaliation in the beginning of October and maybe take it out through our Thanksgiving. But come on, BB. I'm not going to have a come to Jesus moment with you, obviously, because you don't acknowledge the existence of the man. But come on, we got to do something different here. That was October 7th. It's now March 16th. Let's go ahead and do something different here. When asked on Sunday whether Israeli forces would move into Rafah, Netanyahu replied, "We will go there. We're not going to lead them. You know, I have a red line. You know what the red line is? That October 7th doesn't happen again. Never happens again." The Prime Minister was referring to the murderous Hamas raid that killed more than 1,160 people in Israel and triggered the war. Which, again, you had a stance to go back and do something on October 8th. I fully supported you doing that on the 8th. I didn't support us getting involved in that, even though that was the first thing that people brought up. But I 100% supported Israel's position to go and launch a retaliation on that day. Again, it is now March. It's time to do something different. But we are set to go put boots on the ground. This will be in about 57 days. This should be complete. They're talking about a 60-day timeline for this. Biden orders U.S. military to set up temporary aid port for Gaza as famine threatens. From Sami Magdi, Abby Sowell, Amr Madani, and Ellen Nickermeyer. President Biden ordered the U.S. military Thursday to set up a temporary port off the coast of Gaza, joining international partners in trying to carve out a sea route to deliver food and other aid to desperate Palestinian civilians cut off by the Hamas war and by Israeli restrictions on humanitarian access by land. While reiterating his support for Israel, Biden used the announcement and the bright spotlight of his State of the Union to renew months of U.S. calls to Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to change how he conducts the war, including by allowing more aid into Gaza and doing more to protect humanitarian workers there. To the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be secondary consideration or a bargaining chip, man. The U.S. announcement signaling the deepening U.S. involvement in the war and the escalating fighting in the region comes as Biden faces pressure to act more forcefully to ease what the UN says are near famine conditions for many of Gaza's 2.3 million people. Look, I fully support the idea of charity, private charity, and humanitarian aid, getting food into there. And I even support the U.S. protecting the shipping lanes because that's been their role throughout the world. I don't care for it, but I know historically the world looks to us to do that. But all that I see here is a president who wants to be in an active hot war come election day, putting some odd 20,000 U.S. troops, dangling them in front of guns and bombs. That's all that I see when they do this. Hey, I'm gonna have U.S. troops down here, man. You better not hit one with a gun. Otherwise, we might be in a war, man. Come on. It's right there. You better not hit it. They're doing something you don't like too, man. But that's partially because I hate U.S. policy, especially foreign policy. And the last one, and we'll move on to the closing argument, and we'll finally pop that bottle. We'll message Midget and tell him that we're getting started right now. I'll message him right now on air. I'll do it. Unless he's still in the chat, I don't know. A Russian missile nearly hit Zelensky's motorcade. A Russian missile nearly hit Zelensky's motorcade. Man, does this sound familiar. from Brad Dress. A Russian missile struck near Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky's motorcade Wednesday in the city of Odessa. The missile hit about 490 feet from the motorcade, which was accompanied by Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis, according to Greek outlet Protothema. Greek and Ukrainian officials continued their way after the missile strike and held a meeting in the southern Ukrainian city on the Black Sea. Following the attack, Zelensky posted on X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, but did not mention the Russian strike. Zelensky said the two leaders had met at the site of a 9-story residential building that was hit by a Russian missile strike on March 2nd and killed 12. At the press conference with Mitsotakis, Zelensky told reporters that he saw the world saw this blow today, referencing the Russian strike that hit near his motorcade. You see who you are dealing with. They don't care where they strike. I will touch on that in a second. Zelensky said, according to the comments shared by the Ukrainian media outlets, I know there were victims today. I don't know all details yet, but I know they're dead and wounded. Russia's bombed cities across the Ukraine as part of a campaign to subdue the Ukrainian people, including through targeting of energy infrastructure. Let's get the map. Maps. Here is the Ukraine. And here's Odessa. Oddly enough, far away from where any of the fighting is going. And any of the disputed territory even is, which is largely in this region, where most of the dispute is, and has been fairly contained with the exception of a few missile strikes going into Kiev, and just that one weird missile strike that hit over here that oddly enough had had Ukrainian markings on it. I'm telling you, number one, if you are a foreign dignitary in a nation that is actively at war, you do accept some level of risk. If you're staying over on this side of the Dnipro, that's less risk. Because every single indicator that I see on this shows that Russia is nearly not interested in this, in the Ukraine itself. He's interested in two Ukrainian, quote, states in this area, basically running a line from Kherson up to here via the Dnipro, and that's a highway, not a river, the E50 highway. And he hasn't done much to go beyond this region, which is natively Russian speaking and ethnically Russian as well. I hold to my prediction that the majority of this conflict had to do with this area trying to declare independence. And when Kiev told them to shove it, they petitioned Moscow and said, we don't want to be a part of Ukraine anymore. Can you help us? I maintain that, and I will maintain that for as long as this conflict goes on until I see some battle plan that proves that wrong. But I'd be willing to bet if the forensics comes and pulls out the missile that hit Odessa, you're going to find Ukrainian writing on it, not Russian. All right. That's what we have for the news today. Let's through the closing. We'll do a quick brush on the rules of acquisition, and then it is cider time while we do things I like and things that I hate. Getting almost to the end, and yes, as per request from Dual Helix, we will start over after we're done. But I'm also probably going to wind up plugging my headphones in before the stream is out because they just started beeping at me, which means that they are dying. We did the 285th rule of acquisition, or I'm sorry, the 200, What did we do last time? We did the 284th. No, we did the 285th. I was right the first time because it was the collaborator. We didn't do the one from the reference book. The 286th rule of acquisition. When Morn leaves, it's all over. Look, we all have that regular customer, that regular person in our life. For Quark, it was Morn, and he added this rule. This was unofficial in their religion. But we all have old dependable in our lives who will always be there until the one day that person is not there. The choose your indicator that it's time to go back and figure out what your next step is, because you're not going to be going anywhere further on the path that you have. So watch that dependable person in your life. Take care of that dependable person in your life, and do have a backup and an out for when Morn leaves, because when Morn leaves, it is all over. All right, it's time. You realize I've been waiting 3 weeks for this? Like I said at the in the Twitter announcement, I might die on stream right now. It's a distinct possibility. So, as most everybody's known for a while, because I talk about it all the goddamn time. When I first moved, I was joking around with some of my coworkers, and I said that I don't want to control how anybody lives. I just want to live on 100 acres somewhere and make liquor for a living. And then I started looking at recipes to make liquor, other than corn whiskey, that I know actually a little bit about. When I started looking at other kinds of liquors. And I realized, and I did the research already, to know that I need to have a license, even if it's for private consumption in Wisconsin, to distill. And I know because we're watching Contemporary right now. If I try to do this without a license, somebody's going to come kicking down that door to remind me of how much I've said that I hate the government. But I can ferment all that I want. Wines, beers, and hard ciders. I can ferment as much of that as I want, as much as I can drink, as much as my liver can take without a license. So, about a month ago I started making wine for the first time. I made 2 jars of an apple wine out of juice just to get used to using the yeast and the yeast boosters and the other chemicals that go with this. And then I also made a batch of hard cider, which is literally as easy as pour the cider into a fermenter, pour some yeast in, and wait, which I also used yeast nutrient. I didn't use pectic acid in this, or pectic enzyme rather, in this blend. The next one that I have that I will be bottling tomorrow does have pectic enzyme in it. So that'll probably be a little bit smoother, a little bit finished, and it might be a little bit clearer. But before I filibuster anymore, we will see if I'm going to die here or not. So here is the first bottle of my hard cider. And I'll talk a bit about it too. Ooh, it's carbonated. I heard the rush. It's lightly carbonated. And I have a bottle cap for currency after the fall of the world. Cheers, Into. It is a little drier than I thought it was going to be. It tastes good. There's, I don't know where I got a cinnamon taste out of it, but there is a bit of a cinnamon hint into it. For this next batch, when I bottle it, I'm going to, I think, double the corn sugar for it that I use to carbonate, because it's not very carbonated. It is really dry. Hey, Caleb Shoemate has joined us just in time for me to drink my first hard cider over on Instagram. Hi, Caleb. Yes, this is the first alcohol that I've ever made for myself. And I just took a drink of it right before you popped in live. I still have some work to do to tweak this recipe to make it right. But as a first try, this is actually really good. I gotta strain more of the lees off the bottom too. and I know this too, like you can't see in this bottle. We'll look at the other bottle in a second because I brought one for comparison. I put some of my stuff in a Strongbow bottle because it's clear, and then I actually have the Strongbow equivalent here as well. But there is a little sediment. I don't know if I have to put a cheesecloth around my siphon to get some of that sediment out, but like this batch had a lot of sediment in it, and I know the sediment leaves some off flavors. For a first try though, for having never fermented myself in some of my last things, other people did the fermenting, but having never fermented for myself, this isn't bad. There is some room for improvement, but this is not bad at all. I will give this a 5 out of 10 first try. Maybe 6. Maybe 6. And I'm going to reserve some of this next fermenter that I'm going to bottle up tomorrow. I'm going to reserve some of that to do a pork chop marinade. Especially after having tasted it. Now, because I hadn't tasted this before, I didn't know what to do. I'd seen recipes using the non-back-sweetened version as a marinade, but I hadn't done it. I'm going to do it. If it doesn't smell like wet horse, you did a good job. It does not smell like a wet horse. But that's usually more for distilling than for fermenting. Yeah, I would say a good 6 out of 10 for the first try. Now, what I wanted to say when I did the comparison. So, this is mine in a clear bottle. We used the dark bottle for this one. This is my cider in a clear bottle. And you can see that there is still some sediment at the bottom. I got to figure out how to get that sediment out of there. Because even when I re-racked my apple wine, I know I got a lot of sediment through that as well. But that siphon didn't have a filter at all. This new one that I bought that's electric does have a filter. But that's also what I used to bottle this, and I know more got through than I was comfortable with. So this is mine right here with a little bit of sediment on the bottom. It's a little bit pale and it's still a little bit cloudy. I got to figure out how I can go back and clarify that. For comparison, this is an actual Strongbow hard cider. Name brand. No endorsement. This is just me using something for comparison. But this is the actual name brand. You can see it's much clearer. It's a little bit darker, a little bit richer, and no sediment in the bottom. So, still some work to do. Not bad for a first try, though. All right, let's do a couple things that I like and a couple things that I hate. Let's bring back the news scene. All right, things that I like today. Number one, as far as the RNC goes, and I am not a Republican. I have never been a Republican. I don't care for the Republican Party and the fact that any law that they make has a carve-out for their people. But I understand also that there's a need to get the Biden admin out of the office. They suck. Out loud. Well, the RNC, with the video that we'll watch in just a moment here, has now agreed to do something that might let them win. I know Republicans don't like to win, so they do stupid things. But under the leadership of Lara Trump, the RNC will officially be working with Scott Presler to increase the turnout. Now, Presler, by himself, with no official capacity, has been one of the leading voices in getting door knockers on the ground and ballot harvesting efforts in states. Scott Presler has been one of the leading voices in this. And I know a lot of, especially the religious people, say that he can't be a conservative anyway because he's gay. I don't care. Dude has kind of been a rock star in all this, and I'm kind of glad to see it. So, yeah. Will be officially working. Let's listen to the RNC.
Yes, one of the biggest lies and the most pernicious lie, I think, that's ever been told to the American people is that 2020 was the most secure election in our lifetime.
Oh.
You have leveled you've leveled a lawsuit against Michigan. Now you're saying that the RNC is going to invest big time in chasing ballots. Can you talk me through the structure of ensuring that, let's just call it, all of the shenanigans, the funny business, the downright criminality, the illegality, and the rigging in the electoral process does not happen again in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are millions of people, I'm going to say 75 million plus Americans, who still are like, what the hell happened in 2020? They didn't get any answers. They all wanted us to move on, but they all feel like something was awry, something was amiss, because let's be honest, 81 million people were not so inspired by a guy campaigning out of his basement who could barely string two sentences together. They said, we're going to come out big for this guy. Absolutely not. No one believes that. So at the RNC, it is something that we're taking incredibly seriously. We have the first ever election integrity division. This is an entire wing of the building dedicated solely to that. So how do you do that? Right now, you just talked about a lawsuit we have in Michigan. We have in 23 states, 78 lawsuits single-handedly to address this issue, to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat in 2024. We know about all the states who illegally changed their voting laws in 2020 under the guise of COVID. It flips some of those back around, but it also adds an extra layer of protection on top of that. In addition, we now have the ability to train poll workers. These are not just poll watchers, people who physically stand in a polling location and kind of look around and maybe might be able to see something. These are people, Benny, who get to handle a ballot, who can count the ballots coming in and the ballots going out, so they know what the numbers should be at the end of the day. On top of that, we are also hiring and we are asking for volunteer attorneys all across this country. We want you in a polling location near you every single minute that there is voting going on, because we want to be able to address a problem immediately in real time. We cannot wait until it's too late. We also have to strike the fear of God in people who would ultimately be cheating in this capacity. If you are a person who is paid to cheat, do not do it, because we will come after you. The full extent of the law will be laid on you. We will prosecute the hell out of you. It's not worth it. Don't do it. But we also have to start thinking about things like legal ballot harvesting, something we've never embraced as a party. We're going to start doing it now. I'm going to have a call very soon with Scott Pressler, who is an amazing vote registrar. He has registered so many people in this country. I think he's fantastic. I want him on our legal ballot harvesting division. We also have to embrace early voting, Benny. I know we want one day of voting in this.
It does look like they're going to try to win. Of course, we have to wait until November to see what's actually going to happen with this. It looks like they're going to make the attempt. So cross your fingers, folks. Because, my God, we got to get rid of Biden. We can't do 4 more years of this. All other things that I like. So normally this would be under things that I hate because of the meme that comes back and follows this. But I'll explain why this is on the things that I like side. H. Pearl Davis, who I cannot stand, and under more circumstances this would be a screenshot, not her actual ex. She quote tweets Ryan, who is RCAM TV, and says, for all the Christians that were dogging her for not immediately deleting her OnlyFans, well, she did, and it's gone. Pearl Davis coming back and saying these people are idiots because, well, she doesn't believe that the person can reform. Or at least the character that she plays for the benefits of men doesn't believe that people can ever reform. And once they're OnlyFans, they're always OnlyFans. Brooke says she still has the red hair. She hasn't changed. Still searching for attention on social media. Don't be fooled. That's also one that I responded to, and I told Brooke, if you're concerned that she's searching for attention on social media, stop giving her attention. That should be easy enough in and of itself. But Perhit responds with a horrendous meme, of course. We've got the e-thought here, body count 30, used up whole to add the Bible. And now it's body count 30 plus address plus a Bible plus a used up whole with a Bible. Now the reason that I have this over on things that I like, because I hate this, obviously. This is one of the most horrendous. This is the Christian people telling other people, you can't be part of our club if you are ever not part of our club. Like Democrats do. But the reason that I like this so much and I brought this out is this particular meme in and of itself, and there's a reason that I left this one as the highlighted X for this, launched a salvo, an absolute salvo of people coming out to defend the decision. Now, I am against OnlyFans. I'm against people using their body and that being their only form of income, because it will go back out there. And it will make it harder for people to move on because, well, you've got this perception. I would probably still not offer the opportunity to go out with this woman because of her past into this. But I would take her to church in a second. Hey, you want to come back and learn how to build a better relationship with God? In spite of the fact that you were a sinner? Yes. I've got some people that I want you to meet. Come with me. Let's get your life cleaned up a little bit more. Let's make things better for you. And a salvo of people coming in and saying yes. People make mistakes in lives. We are all sinners. We have all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Myself included. I used to suck. But by what they're saying here, what people like Perhiet are saying in this, is that there was no chance for redemption at all. And I should just continue down the road of what I was doing when I was 28, 29 years old, which sucked. That I could never come back out of that again because I went down that road once. And then seeing so many people come back out and say that there is salvation for sinners, and reminding both the woman who formerly had an OnlyFans and people like me as well who see this stuff on the daily, that there is a salvation. I love that. I love the attention that this brought. I wonder if people got converted over the message of Christians coming out and saying, hey, no, you're wrong. This woman has a shot. She's recognized the error of her ways, and she's repentant of them. So there is that. And now we've got a bunch of things that I hate. Some of this is probably going to get skipped. I'm going to tell you right off the bat. From the Daily Wire. We have no music behind me. Where's my music? I'm not so drunk that I forgot about it. I've only had 2 sips. Bill Maher, in all of his elegant Bill Maher goodness, pushes Biden to drop Kamala Harris and pick Nikki Haley. But no, she is totally a real conservative and not a part of the Uniparty, you guys. Briefly from this one, and we can watch the clip. Bill Maher, host of Real Time, suggested late last week that President Biden drop Kamala Harris as his running mate, which that would be a good idea, and pick former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley. Maher said that he does not believe that Haley has a future in the Republican Party and suggests that she team up with Biden. I got news for you, Maher. She doesn't have a future in the Democrat Party either, because there's a perception, even if it's wrong, that she is Bible first and end abortion at conception. And this whole slew of other lies that they told about her, which wound up being not true. I mean, she is close to the Democrat Party, but that's not the way that the people are going to see that when they go up to the ballot box in November. That might actually tank Biden's campaign. Actually, this might not be the worst idea in the world. But let's listen to the king of being an asshole, Bill Maher.
I know it's crazy to think that she could run with Biden, but that's my dream. Mm-hmm. A unity ticket, and then he would, I think, definitely win, because nobody's going to. And of course, she said some crazy things. Mm-hmm. Most politicians have, not as crazy as we've never been a racist country. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Wow. But you would literally destroy the Democratic base. I mean, take off the first African-American female vice president.
She's a woman of color. Wink,
yeah,
wink.
But it's just like black women.
She's not African either. She's Indian.
Are like the core of the Democratic Party.
She wouldn't make it. And yeah, that would probably bomb Biden's political career right then and there. And they've got to keep him in office until he dies. So he has executive immunity for the rest of his life. So that's not going anywhere. Other things that I hate today, the purge is here. That's right, Pittsburgh police is cutting staff between 3 and 7 a.m. They will no longer respond if not an in-progress emergency. Look, guys, I do my most, the best that I can do, to live my life with no police, to never have to call the police, to never have to deal with anything like that. But I understand other people need that. And I understand that emergencies happen between 0300 and 0700. Hank Berrien reporting for the Daily Wire. Pittsburgh police will no longer personally respond to calls that aren't considered in-process emergencies after recent department policy changes. Calls not considered in-progress emergencies will be assigned by dispatch to a telephone recording unit. The city's website states creation of an enhanced telephone reporting unit operating from 7 to 3 a.m. daily. I think they have that reversed. Including weekends, dispatch will assign reports to the TRU for calls that do not require an in-person response by officers. TRU will not be assigned to any in-progress call where they suspect may be on scene, any crime where a person may need medical aid, any domestic dispute calls with evidence where the mobile crime unit will be requested to process a scene. In addition, between 3 and 7 a.m., when reportedly far fewer 911 calls are made, no desk officers will be present at the 6 police stations in the city. Instead, call boxes linked to 911 have been installed during some overnight shifts. There may only be 22 officers to cover the entire city. So, this is not them coming out and saying that there's no police presence, but they're saying a heavily reduced police presence. My big question here is how many people are actually calling for a non-emergency between 3 and 7? I'm telling you right now, if I pick up the phone to call the police, well, if I picked up the phone and call the police anyway, for any time, any reason, it's an emergency. Because I try to keep my interactions with them as minimal as possible. But if I'm calling at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's not because there's a cat in the tree. Typically, if I'm calling at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's because somebody just tried to kick in my door and I need the coroner to remove that person. So, I can only see this not turning out well. Libs of TikTok making the report off that. Pittsburgh police will no longer respond to certain calls, including theft, harassment, criminal mischief, and burglary alarms. Between 3 and 7, there will be no officers at any police stations. Buy guns, buy ammo. The police will not protect you, which you should be doing anyway. Response time is still 15 minutes, folks. It's a little story out of my state. This is the most worthless virtue signal I have seen in quite a while. Rolling Stone, this bar is closing during the RNC so it doesn't have to serve Trumpers. Nikki McCann Ramirez reporting. Go ahead. Milwaukee bar owner Ricky Ramirez usually begins posts on the mothership's Instagram account with a lighthearted insult towards his patrons. Yeah, I looked at this guy's Instagram after this. Oh, you missed the cider, but it was... We're going to do a review for Midget B because he did come back for the cider. It was a little bit dry. I am going to double the back sweetening for the next batch. And I'm going to work harder because there's a little bit of sediment in the bottom. For a first attempt, I got a 6 out of 10 for this. And we have to show them the comparison. So I used a dark bottle for most of it, but I recycled some Strongbow bottles. So this is mine. A little bit pale, a little bit paler than a normal hard cider you'd buy in the store. And it does have some sediment in the bottom. That's what I'm working to get rid of, mostly, and then clarify. And then this is an actual Strongbow hard cider. So you can see where the color difference is. I gotta tweak the recipe a little bit, but it's drinkable. A little weaker than I thought it was gonna be too. Alright, anyway, back to Milwaukee. And I've read this guy's Instagram, and this guy's a fucking prick too, by the way. With a lighthearted insult towards his patrons, sup bozos or sup idiots, sup Dorcas Malorcas, and hello freaks are all frequent openers to photo captions announcing service updates, scheduled disruptions, and special events, combining craft cocktails, a dive bar feel, and a marquee sign with rotating quips, such as today, only drugs in bathroom okay, we will refuse service if you didn't wash your ass, and mothership sounds like a good time. No, it doesn't. Ramirez tells Rolling Stone that the mothership, which he often refers to as the mommy in his post, has a chosen voice. That voice made waves on social media Wednesday when he announced he would be closing down the bar in mid-July when the RNC is scheduled to hold its 2024 convention in the heart of Milwaukee. The convention is expected to bring 50,000 people to the city. Special ordinances have been approved allowing bars to stay open late, and with past conventions, many liquor companies, brands, and political groups are pitching local watering holes on commemorative merchandise and event partnerships. Skipping the fray means potentially foregoing a lot of money. On Wednesday, Ramirez issued a notice about his intention to close down the bar's more than 7,000 Instagram followers. Sup, idiots, we haven't lost a lot of followers in a while, so here we go. As everything gets amplified, with like the RNC shit show coming to town, in my actual opinion, I would like to formally state that we're shutting bar down during the week of because fuck that noise. I'm not trying to get involved with or actively take money or rent the space out to that tomfoolery. So, when you make a statement like that, you would think that this is probably somewhere close to the RNC, that he's trying to avoid the confrontation or anything else. So I looked. By the way, I have drank in this bar before, but it's changed hands since then. It's changed hands twice since I've been there, since I moved away. But I have drank in this establishment before, under a different owner. And it's also nowhere near the RNC, oddly enough. And I got the driving directions, just in case you wanted to see what it is that we're doing here. So, the RNC is at the Bell Phillips Ave, the Fiserv Forum. Not Pfizer, not the drug company. Fiserv Forum, which is where the Milwaukee Bucks play, on the north side of town. And then they're doing overflow events in the Panther Arena for UWM, which is also in the same neighborhood. This guy's place is 10 minutes away on 43 on the best traffic conditions. He's literally all the way across town. This is a virtue signal, folks. This is a guy being an asshole because he wants to make a statement of how much he hates people that don't think like him. I can't believe he didn't think that anybody would not go back and look at this and figure out where this guy was coming from. And I know because he went to Rolling... Like, he didn't put this in a Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. He put this in Rolling Stone and let Rolling Stone come back and do free advertising for him. I'm such a virtuous liberal. I'm going to shut down for the RNC. You are so far away from the RNC, you are not likely to see a single patron or an extra vehicle due to it. Ben Shapiro with a response to the gaffe that he made that we talked about earlier. Ben Shapiro X's out. Yesterday, apparently I broke the internet with a hot and spicy subject of Social Security and retirement. Today I broke down what are actually two separate arguments that many are incorrectly conflating. One, Social Security is a Ponzi scheme that's 100% going to bankrupt the country. And two, it's free country. If you have the money to retire and you want to, that's your choice. But work is a large part of fulfilling and purposeful life, and retirement, as we know it today, is sending elderly love out to pasture to wither away. Is not how we were created to live. So he said something tremendously stupid, and it sounds like, and I haven't watched the video, that he doubled down after the fact. Let's listen.
So yesterday, I apparently blew up the internet. I blew up the internet because of something that I said on this show. What exactly did I say that blew up the internet? Well, I touched the political third rail. I talked about Social Security. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's so spicy about Social Security? And I will admit, I was thinking the same thing, because there are a few simple facts of the matter with regard to Social Security. One, we don't have the money for it, and it's a Ponzi scheme. And two, with regard to sort of the personal decision to retire, very often when people retire, they're making a bad decision. This is what I said. I want to play you the clip of what I said yesterday, and then I want to discuss why exactly this was so controversial. And I think it goes deep to the root of something that's happened on both the right and the left, which is this weird idea that work is somehow demeaning and bad and terrible, and that somehow purpose and fulfillment don't come from work and don't come from church and don't come from family. So where do they come from? That's a broader argument. We'll get to that in a moment. I want to play you this clip because this apparently set 1,000 hearts aflutter. And let's be real about this. It's insane that we haven't raised the retirement age in the United States. It's totally crazy. Joe Biden, if that were the case, Joe Biden should not be running for president. Hey, Joe Biden is 81 years old. The retirement age in the United States at which you start to receive Social Security and you are eligible for Medicare is 65. Joe Biden has technically been eligible for Social Security and Medicare for 16 years, and he wants to continue in office until he is 86, which is 19 years past when he would be eligible for retirement. No one in the United States should be retiring at 65 years old. Frankly, I think retirement itself is a stupid idea unless you have some sort of health problem. Everybody that I know who is elderly, who has retired, is dead within 5 years. And if you talk to people who are elderly and they lose their purpose in life by losing their job and they stop working, things go to hell in a handbasket real quick. But put all of that aside. Okay, so those are two arguments. Right, so those are two arguments. One is we have to raise the retirement age. And two is that as a general rule, it is not a good personal decision for people to retire early. And I say even right there, unless we are talking about people who suffer a physical or mental malady as a result of continued work. So, for example, you're a bricklayer and now you're 65 years old and your back is gone. Obviously, you're going to want to retire from being a bricklayer because you have a physical malady, which I literally said on the show yesterday and everybody is ignoring. But let's go through these arguments one by one. Because the first argument about raising the retirement age or privatizing Social Security or changing the Social Security system, this is considered the third rail of politics. And as I said in the show yesterday, Donald Trump hasn't touched it. He's the first Republican in a long time to have basically said the entitlements are off the table. We're not going to do anything about them. And I've said before, that's a smart political move. But smart political moves aren't necessarily good for the country. Both parties now argue that we can't touch Social Security. We can't touch Medicare. We can't touch Medicaid. The entitlement programs basically have to stay. The problem with that is that, of course, they're all going to go bankrupt. So politicians obviously have an incentive to keep kicking the can down the road and pretending that we have unlimited borrowing power and limited money to pay for a ballooning public debt. That, of course, is their incentive structure. But I'm not running for office, so I can tell you the truth, which is that if we don't raise the retirement age or privatize Social Security over time or make any changes to Social Security, we will go insolvent. Social Security is not, in fact, a lockbox. I saw a lot of tweets yesterday from people saying, I paid into Social Security. I'm just taking out what I got in. No, you're not. You absolutely are not. The government stole your money and paid.
Okay, I can't listen to that anymore. He's doubling down on this, and oh, wow. I said physical malady. You're ignoring the fact that I said that. No, you didn't. You said if you are sick. I'm telling you right now, if you make piston products for 40 years, your body is going to shut down at some point. And yeah, you can probably go back and do other stuff at some point when you're starting at that point. But continuing to do the hard manual labor, that's not going to happen. You can go bus tables in a restaurant or bag groceries or something like that. That's not as physically demanding, but you're not going to get paid what you were making throwing forged iron through a factory for 40 years either. That's why there is retirement. and unfortunately why there's Social Security and people depend on the government for it. You are probably going to sit in that chair and say stupid shit until you die, unfortunately. I can't knock that because I hope to do the same, but my more physical job, I do hope to retire from at some point as I get to later on in life. And I pray to God that I'm not doing it on the government Ponzi scheme. I pray to God that my 401k can carry me for as long as it needs to. Other things that I hate. Spectrum News, New York 1. With a proposal from one Rashida Tlaib. Recording artists would get 1 penny per stream under proposed living wage bill. From Susan Carpenter. Recording artists would receive a new royalty from streaming under new legislation proposed in Congress this week. The Living Wage for Musicians Act would give artists a penny each time their song is played on a streaming service. Well, they should get that no matter what. Now, it should come from the advertising revenue that the streaming service gets from that artist. And, I'm not getting anything from Contemporary off of Spotify. Not even a penny. Because it's not large enough to serve ads out on at this point. I'm getting stuff from Twitch, for those of you who watch over on Twitch, because that has grown to the point where I can serve out ads. Somehow I got to affiliate on Twitch, and I've grown to that point. And I thank you guys who watch over on Twitch, too. You guys are a champ. And I get a penny. I get 2 cents. I get 2 cents every time one of you watches an ad on Twitch. And I thank you for that. And I get $2.50 every time one of you uses your Prime subscription that's included with your Amazon Prime to subscribe to this channel. And I thank you for that too, and all the gifted subs that the Mogwai has thrown out over the past 6 months. Thank you for that as well. But that is me giving a product and you deciding that you want to give your advertising commercial time or your hard-earned money or the Amazon subscription that you get every month with your hard-earned money that you're giving to Amazon. That is a negotiation between you and I. That is not the law coming down and saying you must pay this person for the privilege of being on your website. Detroit is one of the music city capitals of the world, and our artists here have changed the music industry and our culture in so many incredible ways. Rashida Tlaib of Michigan said in a statement about the bill she co-introduced Wednesday. It's only right that the people who create the music we love get their fair share so they can thrive, not just survive. Well, again, if they're not getting the money in, then the company's not going to have the money to go out. It's a little thing called supply and demand. Tlaib introduced the bill with Jamal Bowman, who founded the Congressional Hip Hop Task Force. The proposed legislation is a follow-up to a resolution Tlaib introduced in 2022, calling on streaming services to compensate musicians more fairly. Again, you are compensated based on the revenue that you bring in. I will never get a penny from YouTube. That's actually by design. I went in and turned AdSense off because, well, I already censor what I have to say on YouTube. If I was in the ad program, I would have to do so even more. And I'm not willing to do that. I hate myself for doing it as much as I have. One of the world's largest music streaming platforms, Spotify, has more than 574 million monthly active users globally and pays music rights holders royalties for recording and publishing. The company said it paid an all-time high of $40 billion to the music industry in 2022. The latest year's statistics are available. Tlaib said musicians receive an average royalty of 1/3 of a cent per stream. At this rate, she said artists would need more than 800,000 monthly streams to make the equivalent of a $15 an hour job. Which is fine. look, here's the problem with it. Number one, it is still based on how much recognition you have, how much hustle you have, and how much word of mouth that you get. Like, there are a couple musicians that I follow from Instagram who are sub 100 streams a month of their music. The one is actually really good. I enjoy her music a lot. But I know she's small time, very young, just getting into the industry for the first time. But when I look at something like this, number one, the only thing this is going to do is denote more jealousy among the people. Because again, they are still getting compensated for this. She just wants to raise the wage, which is going to raise the costs, the subscription fees, the advertiser fees, which the advertisers are going to have to come back out and pay more for. And it does become a vicious cycle off of this. But it also gives these people the sense of entitlement of, hey, I should be able to make a living wage making bad slam poetry and putting it to a beat. And we already have enough of those out there. We have so many of those out there, they're drowning out actual talented voices like Stephen Ignoramus. So that's why that's on things that I hate. The mighty have fallen. Daily Dot reporting. I always knew something was off. Black Rifle Coffee under fire after employee donations to Democrats resurface. Michael Thalen. Conservatives are calling for a boycott of Black Rifle Coffee after discovering that some of its employees donated to left-wing causes. In screenshots shared across X all this week, users highlighted data from the FEC detailing donations made by the company employees between 2020 and 2022. In one example, employees of a veteran-owned business, which rose to prominence due to its perceived pro-Second Amendment leanings, which is false, by the way, were found to have donated to the left-wing political action committee Act Blue. Calls were quickly made by right-wingers to use social media to boycott Black Rifle, just like conservatives did with Bud Light after the alcohol brand temporarily partnered with a transgender activist. You can't be America First and donate to Act Blue, user Tara Bull wrote, it's time to Bud Light Black Rifle Coffee Company. Now, I have a lot of problems with this from both sides of this. Number one, Black Rifle Coffee did misrepresent itself to get donations from right-wingers. And from what I understand, their coffee was passable to good. There were a lot of people that actually liked it, but I think a lot more people only liked it because it wasn't left-wing, it wasn't woke. Because they said the right thing, and they're veteran-owned, they said the right thing about guns. Well, I did see through that a little bit, and I have actually never drank a Black Rifle Coffee product. I've wanted to before, but when they were really getting up to prominence, I was still really, really fucking poor. And it was just easier for me to get the bag of Dunkin' from the grocery store. Even though I know that Dunkin' Donuts hates absolutely everything about the fact and everything I believe in, and they would probably put calls in to strike this show if they heard me say their name. I love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. This is not an official endorsement. I lived in Boston for 2 years. I lived on Dunkin' Donuts. And besides, you can get the bag, and it's better than Folgers, and you at the time you get it for $3.99 at the grocery store. Now it's like $7.99. Thanks, Biden inflation. But at that same time, a bag of Black Rifle was like $10. I was poor, man. That bag of Dunkin' was just fine for me. But the reason that I'm in favor of going out with a boycott in this is that they outright misrepresented themselves as this big Republican conservative group. But again, and I saw through them when they did their lack of support and they threw Kyle Rittenhouse under the bus. That was the last time I had any temptation to try Black Rifle coffee, but I knew a lot of people still drank it, and I didn't criticize them for it. At this point, if I see somebody with a bit of a conservative viewpoint with Black Rifle on their car or on their coffee cup, or if they have a Black Rifle coffee product that they bring in somewhere, I will ostracize them for it. If they're neutral, I won't care, but if they are outright full-out conservative, I'll ostracize them for it, because that's a load of crap. And that's the other thing with Black Rifle too, is these other ones like the Quarterings Coffee Company and Tim Pool's Coffee Company and things like that. Those are never, you're not going to see those in the local Woodman's. You can walk into the Woodman's right now and get a bag of Black Rifle coffee off the shelf. I know where it is in the Woodman's. I've seen it. Because their views are politically acceptable in private. And it's just as expensive in the store too, by the way. Just so you know. Alright, other things that I hate. Bernie Sanders! Bernie Sanders pushes bill to establish a 4-day work week. Because it's a year that starts in 2-0. From Summer Concepcion and Victoria Ebner. Bernie Sanders held a hearing Thursday on a bill he introduced to reduce the standard U.S. work week to 4 days without loss of pay. The bill, titled the 32-Hour Workweek Act, would reduce the standard work week from 40 to 32 hours over the span of 4 years, including lowering the maximum hours required for overtime compensation for non-exempt employees. It would also require overtime pay at time and a half for workdays that last more than 8 hours, and overtime pay that would pay workers double their regular pay if their workday is longer than 12 hours. A press release on the bill described it as an important step towards ensuring workers share in increasingly productivity and economic growth driven by technological advancements. But you see, they won't. Bernie Sanders is once again doing everything that he can to try to make the labor more expensive. And he thinks it's about redistributing the wealth, and it's because the greedy CEOs are just keeping too much money in it for themselves. And they do compensate themselves well. I don't begrudge them of that. But they also take on more of the risk to do so, and have more stake in ownership in the company to do so, and are trying to keep their labor costs down. Bernie Sanders wants everybody's hourly rate adjusted up, so they make the same on a 32-hour work week that they would on a 40-hour work week. Which, trust me, I did that last year, 2 years ago, almost at this point. Starting in December of 2022, I did that, and it didn't make any effect on my life. I would make as much in 32 hours as I would have in 40 hours at my last job, except I'm typically there 50 to 60 hours in a week. And I still feel like I haven't made a change in my position financially in life. So you pay them more, get less work out of them, and you still have to sell the product for the same. Otherwise, they'll say that you're shrinkflating. And what happens when you do stuff like that? Why, Tyson has the answer for that. Libs of TikTok with a Fox News video. I don't know where they're getting all these 5-minute videos from. And holy shit, we've been on for almost 2.5 hours. I think we're going to finish on Tyson. I'll keep some of this other stuff for Tuesday, because I can put it on the closing instead of in the actual news feed. But Tyson Foods is laying off American workers and replacing them with asylum seekers. They held a fair in New York City to recruit illegals to work for them and promised to provide them with immigration lawyers. One Gene Morgan joined on Instagram. I don't recognize that name, but welcome in. Give you the wave there. Meanwhile, we will watch this video from Fox News from Perry, Iowa. Then I've got a Fox Business article to go with it, and we'll call it a night after that.
Perry, Iowa is one of the great American suburbs. Quaint shops on the main boulevard, local produce sections at the grocery store, and pristine parks sprinkled throughout the town. It reached a golden era in the 60s and 70s when Tyson Foods opened up its pork factory and revolutionized the town's economy. It's a relatively small town with strong values and a very close-knit community.
Check out that Camaro, by the way.
I just think it's a friendly community, and if you are willing to put out a little effort, I think everyone makes you feel welcome.
Would you consider Perry a good place to grow? Definitely. I am really pro Perry.
I like the small town atmosphere. You get to know people, you walk down the street, they say hi to you. If you need help, you know who you can turn to, that kind of thing.
But Perry, Iowa is about to change drastically, and not for the better. This week, Tyson Foods announced that it will be permanently closing its pork factory in Perry, killing around 1,200 jobs in a town of just 8,000 people. So as Perry residents struggle to cope with mass layoffs, Tyson Foods has its eyes on a different class of workers. The company is now offering new jobs to asylum seekers in other states like New York. Bloomberg says Tyson's tracking migrants in a massive database. They scroll through the data like Facebook. You see a worker you like? Tap, hire. They even had a job fair.
So you were at a Tyson fair in New York City not so long ago where Tyson was basically making this pitch. What did you observe when you went there?
They created a database for these new asylum seekers in New York City. So these people would come in, they'd learn a little bit about the company, and for the most part, Tyson had already gone through their various details of their application. And so many of them, 17 the day I was there, and then another 70 a couple weeks later, went off to Tennessee to go start their new jobs as Tyson production workers.
Oh, and the jobs come with perks, not just health insurance. Tyson's also offering lawyers to its illegal alien workers and time off to attend immigration hearings. In 2034, of course, they're firing Americans and offering perks to illegals. This was...
Yeah, that's what happens when you try to go to the 4-day work week, too. Just a brief one from Fox Business. Tyson Foods' Iowa pork plant to permanently close, over 1,200 jobs affected. From Aislinn Murphy. Tyson Foods announced Monday it would close an Iowa pork plant, affecting more than 1,000 jobs. Workers at the Perry facility officially learned of the planned closure on Monday, and one Gene Morgan, that is... If you go into my bio on Instagram, you'll find the YouTube link on there. So, and it'll be the main channel, so you'll see the live stream right up at the front. Let's see. The plant reportedly has a workforce of more than 1,200. After careful consideration, we have made the difficult decision to permanently close our Perry, Iowa pork plant, a Tyson Foods spokesperson confirmed Tuesday to Fox Business. The spokesperson said, closing the Perry pork plant emphasizes our focus to optimize the efficiency of our operations to best serve our customers. In 2023, Tyson Foods indicated the 6 chicken processing facilities would close permanently, and more recently the company added a pair of case-ready value-added beef plants to the list of closures, according to the company's first quarter earnings report. The shuttering of these facilities, which are located across 6 states, are meant to optimize asset utilization. So, you guys know my stance on boycotts. I support you putting your dollar with what you believe in, and I always have. I fully support you making a decision based on what's best for you, based on what you believe you put your dollar for. I always say, just be careful, because if you boycott every company that doesn't agree with you whole cloth, you will starve to death. So do choose wisely. But with that being said, I will come over to X here right now, grab from my profile a list of companies that Tyson Foods Maybe. Apparently that didn't show up on my media, so I have to go to my regular profile and check my reposts. There it is. Alright, let's bring this over to here. So here's a comprehensive list, even though it cuts off at the bottom because of the way that they did it, of Tyson Foods products. Obviously Tyson Chicken, but Jimmy Dean Sausage, Hillshire Farm, Ballpark Franks, Sara Lee, Nature's Raised Farm, State Fair, Idell's, Raised and Rooted, Wright Bosco's, Galli, Bonici, The Brust Company, Chairman's Reserve, IBP, Lady Astor, Mexican Original, Open Prairie, Star Ranch Angus, Wunderbar, Advanced Press, Barber Foods, Big Ass, Fast Fixings, Pierre, Like Moms, Lancher, Roussier, Steakies, Original Philly, Brian True Chews, and Top Chews are all Tyson's Foods product. Now, for me, this is actually a really easy list for me to, quote, boycott, because I actually don't buy any of this already. The only one that I would regularly get, and I will check with my local market to see if they utilize this company or not, which they probably do. It's one of the leading beef producers in the country, is this one right here, IBP. Any local meat market, well, most local meat markets, at least around here, I don't know how it is where you are, uses IBB products. International Beef Products. Because they don't get the hanging quarters anymore. They get boxes of big chunks of certain cuts of meat, and then they cut it down and trim it down and put it the way that it works best for the customer. That'd be the only one that I would have a hard time avoiding. Because anything in your fresh meat case at Woodman's is IBP. Anything at the local meat market here is typically IBP. You get the big wax IBP box, you know that's there. I've had Barber Foods stuff before, but I prefer the, there's a local company, Family Farms, that does a better stuffed chicken breast than Barber Foods. I like Ballpark Franks, I just never buy them. I don't really buy cheap hot dogs anymore, so there's that. State Fair, same thing, corn dogs. I never have corn dogs anymore. So some of this I have eaten in the past, but for the most part it's not a regular part of my rotation, except for, again, IBP. I don't like Jimmy Dean sausage either. Hillshire Farm is something I would occasionally have before too. I love kielbasa and ring bologna. I 100% love it. There are better local brands for me though. Shermake is a really good one. I'll get Hillshire Farm, well not anymore, but I would get Hillshire Farm occasionally. But it was so rare, it's not on my radar. I completely forgot that I ever got it. Because I said when I was on the X that it's only IBP that I had to have to worry about. But then like looking at it now, I just realized that, oh hey, every once in a while I get Hillshire Farm ring bologna. Well, not anymore. It's been months since I've had any too, so well, they're not getting any more of my money. Anyway, we're done. We're out of here. A lot of news to cover off this one. I think Tyson owns Johnsonville. No, it's Jimmy Dean. I have some Johnsonville brats in my fridge. They're the garlic ones for St. Patrick's Day, because I'm probably not going to go out and get it really hammered. My truck seems to stand out, and on the high drinky holidays, they like to pull me over and make sure that my truck cab doesn't smell like liquor. They got me on New Year's Eve, and they've had me like 4 or 5 times since then too, which is weird because I lived in the region that I lived in for the last part of my life for 10 years, and in those 10 years I only got pulled over 4 times. I broke that record in like a week up here. Anyway, that's enough of my personal life. Let's get out of here. Where's my webcam solo? There it is. All right. Well, we're done. We're out of here. Congrats on not dying from my cider. Well, yeah. It's a sipping one, that's for sure. like I said, when I do this next one here tomorrow, when I bottle this up, we're putting twice the sugar in here because that is way too dry, man. I did not realize it was going to be that dry. But I'm looking forward to that. That'll be coming up here tomorrow. Dual Helix muted Ben Shapiro. I want to listen to that episode. I want to hear the whole thing in full. And the other one too, by the way. It looks like that was on the 13th. So I'll do the 12th and the 13th ones and just see what it is that he has to say. I don't like taking stuff that's been clipped, even if it was him that clipped it himself, and taking the full context of stuff. Let's head out of here. I'm ready to go play video games. There it is. There it is. Well, what an interesting week. 3 contemporaries this week. 6 hours of content in a week. We're still not back to the 10 hours we used to have every week, even when it was at night or even when it was in the morning. But that was an exhausting week, definitely. And I got blackpilled more than I wanted to. Anyway, thanks everybody who came by and hung out and chatted in the live chat. It's been a pleasure serving the news to you this week. Hopefully, they'll slow us down a little bit and we'll go back to one night a week for the next few weeks so we can get a few things done around here. I know that the Mogwai didn't think it was a mess around here. I thought it was a mess, so I took care of that. But we don't want to get back to that point either. So anyway, have a great rest of your weekend. Have some corned beef and cabbage if you can find some. Don't get too hammered because I want you to come back on Tuesday and join me again. No tickets. That is my recommendation for you. No tickets. I don't give a lot of commands around here. That's one of the few that you're going to get. No tickets. No, none of that. Anyway, take care. Have a fantastic night. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here on Tuesday for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Have a great night, and we'll see you next time. If you are on Twitch, stick around for the raid, and we'll see you here next time for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.